focusing on what makes everything unique, because these editors and hosts and journalists are getting pitched constantly. And so you need to stand out, and your property needs to stand out within the first sentence or 2 sentences of something that you're going to email. So making sure you know what is super unique about your property. And then obviously I think having high quality photos is good. Never ever attach those to an email. No one in media is going to open an attachment. And so just putting that even into an email and saying here's the unique feature. Here's a picture of that.
Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled to have you on because I have so many questions about PR and what you do and how you got started in this. But thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to share all my knowledge.
Wonderful. Well, let's dive right on in. Let's start with, a little bit of an easier question. I think my listeners here may not be super familiar with the difference between marketing and PR. Can you just give us a little rundown of how they're different and how they might be similar?
Yes, it is a very confusing topic. And to be honest, when I got into PR, I had no idea what the differences are. So marketing is kind of a big umbrella term that a lot of things fall under. So it could be like social media, influencer marketing, publicity, paid advertising. So really what distinguishes publicity from all those other marketing aspects for the most part is we do not pay the media to promote anything. So let's say you have an advertising budget and you go out and you're going to purchase Facebook banners. You're going to, back in the old school days, purchase an advertorial in a magazine. It's paid content. So you have a guarantee that it's going to go and it's going to run. When you say it's going to run, it's going to look how you say it's going to look. Publicity is different. We don't pay, which makes it more credible. So we're not paying our editors. We're not paying our podcast hosts. They are looking at what we're presenting to them and saying, wow, this is amazing. I want to talk about this for free. So you do pay a publicist as a firm, we get paid, but we don't pay the media versus a marketing firm. You pay them, but then you also have a marketing budget that they're going to pay out. So that's the easiest way to differentiate is we are earned media, not paid media.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in this business? It seems like really relationship based. So how do you get started in this?
People in general or me?
You specifically.
Like I said, I graduated from college with a business degree. I wasn't in communications, had no idea I would not have known what a publicist was or a press release. I never heard of that. I graduated with an entertainment marketing degree. And so I moved to Nashville, was working at a record label in marketing. And then from there, I went to a celebrity management firm and was doing this was at the time, to give you context here, during a recession when every industry is laying off people, but also social media and streaming is just starting to take off. And so we're trying to figure out different ways to make money, especially in the entertainment industry. And so I was hired to run a bunch of professional athletes and celebrities' social media accounts. So this was at the time, Twitter was just starting. So it was let's write content for this NBA player. He's not going to write this content, but we need to build this brand. That's what I was hired to do at the celebrity management. At that time, all of our clients had publicists. So we were on the management side. They had publicists. And one of their publicists ended up going to rehab. And so they said, hey, can anyone just step in for this one athlete? His publicist is in rehab. We just need 6 weeks to do this. So I was yeah. I mean, I wasn't more on the management side. There was a lot of business managers working on money. I was more on the social media side. And so I was yeah, I think I can do that for 6 weeks. During that time, the team that he was on won the NBA championship. So his publicist was going to rehab 6 weeks. Can you just come on? In this 6 weeks, it was the Lakers. They win the national championship. I'm like working with this athlete, don't know what press is, never done any of this. But it kind of took off from there. So they were like, hey, can you like work with our other clients that maybe they don't have a publicist right now, but they're well-known celebrities. And so can you just come in, book them on some magazine covers? Now I know there's PR softwares that I could like easily type in Elle magazine and pull up all the editors and email them. Back then I had no idea. So I'm like Googling, trying to find their emails. And I did get like a lot of magazine covers for my clients, magazine features for our clients. And so that's how my career started. Left that company, was either going to go back to a record label, thought about doing that, or go back, back to record label, or go to a book publisher, which I had never done. Like I didn't even read books. I'm like, I read People magazine at this point. So, okay. So ended up getting a job at a publisher. And now, like when I watch all these Hallmark Christmas movies and talk to anyone, I realize like how big of a deal working at a publisher is. But at the time I was like, oh, I didn't know. Like it's such a posh industry. And so started in marketing for them, kind of same thing. And then it went to be like, we need an internal publicist. We hired these outside firms, but we need someone to manage and do some internal publicity work. And we have these celebrity clients that are now like writing books. So one of my first book tours and book campaigns with them was Michael Vick when he was getting out of federal prison. So that was very interesting. And yes, like for those women that are not familiar, he is an NFL quarterback who was an NFL quarterback. So he wrote a whole memoir while in prison. And when he got out, we did a book tour with him. And that kind of launched that whole side of like how I can work with publishers and authors and celebrities that are writing books. So I rose up through the ranks there till I was like 28 and I was already a VP. So then I decided, so it was a lot of work. And then I was like, okay, well, I think I can run these campaigns in my sleep. And also I want to broaden what I can do. I want to be able to work on movies and with actors. I want to be able to do red carpets again. I want to be able just to really kind of pick and choose based on what I think my media contacts would be interested in. So I left the company without another job. I'm pretty sure everyone there was like, what is happening? Including my parents. I was single at the time. So I was like, okay, you're leaving like a very stable position. And I ended up starting my company 2PR. I had always wanted to start a company. I kind of felt like I was too young to start a company, especially in this world, and especially by myself. Started it, and that was 9 years ago in December. We've never done any advertising or marketing ourselves. We don't have an ad budget, and we've done feature films, we've done Netflix shows, authors, athletes, social media causes or social justice causes with a celebrity tied to them. Yeah, pretty much anything in the entertainment, red carpets, award shows, all of the above. Whatever me and then I talk to my team think would be really interesting to the media. So it's a win-win. Like our clients, they're paying us and they want to be on media. So we don't take on everyone. If we look at something and we think like, it's probably not a good investment. Like maybe you should invest in marketing or advertising, then we will tell them that route, or a social media firm. So everyone we take on, we have a really great track record with getting them. A lot of them want the major podcasts, of course, and then daytime talk shows and morning shows. And so we are very close to all of those state outlets and hosts and things like that.
That is fascinating. I want to go back to when you were saying you had a really good thing going and you just felt called to start your own business. How do you describe that feeling of, just knowing that you were ready, or if you weren't ready, like how did you get the courage to go out on your own?
I was feeling just very bored. And for me, that was one of probably the worst feelings. Like, yes, I was working on publicity campaigns, but it kind of was just the same thing. Like, okay, I'm going to pitch these type of clients to these type of media over and over and over and over. There was really not a ton of diversity in what I was doing. So that just made me feel just bored. And I was already the top of what I was going to be at that company. They could change my title and they had given me raise after raise. So it really wasn't about the money or the title at that point. It was just, I wanted to be excited about going into work every day. So there's that. And then I do not feel like, I don't feel like I'm a very courageous person, but then I look back, I'm like, okay, yeah, to not have any backup as far as like, I wasn't married, I didn't own a home, like those type of things, to just be like, okay, I'm going to try this out and hope that it works. In some ways, I think being naive about it actually was better, because if I had known everything that it takes to build a successful business, and I've heard this from other people, it's just so overwhelming if you just take it all at once. But it's just taking one step at a time, like just the next right step that you're going to take. I think that's the key to really anything, just one small right step in the direction that you want to go. I had encouragement. My boyfriend, now husband, was like, I really think you can do this. So that was great. And then a lot of my clients, I didn't have like a non-compete. So a lot of them were able to be like, oh, you're leaving? Or their management had heard that I was leaving, and then they would sign on with me. So that's how I first got started. So that was really great to kind of have a base of people that knew about me. And I think being in the industry as long as I had been, I had a really good reputation. So whenever the word got out, like I was leaving, then people just started calling.
That's amazing. And yes, that is so courageous. I know it's hard to like look at yourself and be like, "Oh, I'm a courageous person,"
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, just taking that leap of faith, I mean, is
Yeah.
it's really, really
Yeah.
impressive. So, how has your journey been since then? You said you at the time weren't married. I know you have a couple of kids. You've grown a really successful business. How is how have you evolved personally through that change, as well as like as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So much change. And it's actually my 8-year anniversary was last night. So it's like wild to look back on like wedding day pictures to 8, 9 years later, because we've been together 9 years. Um, I think I was very much a people pleaser when I started.
Mm,
Just as a woman and in a communications field that is a little bit like a therapist, like it's a lot of just kind of taking on people's like whatever you want, like, okay, and like not really making too many waves, just kind of running with it. And
mm.
in some ways, I think that is great. But then as an entrepreneur and a business owner, that's whenever you need to you need to lay down the law sometimes. And so I've learned a ton about hard but firm communication and like still being kind, but also like, especially when I'm working on contracts, like, here's the scope of your work. And if you want more than this, then we're going to charge you more. And I think in the beginning of my career,
Mm.
I would have been like, it's okay. It's okay. We'll just keep doing it. And I would run myself ragged. And now I'm like, not perfectly, because there's still sometimes I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just do it. It's fine. But for the most part, I'm like, when we'll have examples, when a contract ends, we start billing you hourly. You probably don't want that, but that's what's in your contract. So if you want your contract to be longer, then you need to sign on longer, and hopefully we have a space for you. And now I'll send bills, hourly bills, just like my attorney does to me, and he doesn't have a problem with it. He's like, you talk to me for 15 minutes, here's your $1,000 bill or whatever it is.
Here we
And so
go.
I've learned to
Yeah.
be a little bit more like, this is my work, this is my expertise, and I'm very good at my job. I'm unashamed about that. You don't have this expertise, so I'm going to charge you for this. So that's one way I've evolved. I just managing people. I had never, even though I was a VP, I was managing outside firms, not like internal people reporting to me, except for interns. So learning to manage people is a skill that I think I'm still working on, and it's still like, some people are great managers. I still am working on it. I feel like I'm more of a friend, and so I'll always be like, okay, let's do this. And my husband would say like, a manager would be more decisive and have had to fire people, which is as uncomfortable for the person firing as the person being fired. And so I never,
Totally. It's
yes,
so hard.
it's very hard. I absolutely hate it. I stay up at night thinking about it because it's
Yes.
just an interesting position to have someone's livelihood in your hands and then to cut that off. So that is hard for me,
Yes.
because I want to just be like, it's okay. I'm just going to keep paying them and learning. And I've had a business coach too, and she helped a lot because when you don't have a boss, you are the boss. You need someone else to kind of help you and tell you like an outside perspective what to do. And so she's helped me with some firing situations, but so I've learned a lot of like I think conflict and hard choices and saying what needs to be said. I've learned a lot of that. And then, yeah, in this time, I've had 2 children. So I have a 4-year-old and a
Wow.
2-year-old now. And that is also very challenging because young children need a lot of attention and clients need a lot of attention. And so I've had to learn the hard way, like taking on too many people as far as my work is really detrimental to my personal life because I'm working day and night through nap times, when the kids go to bed, it's just too much. And so I've had to learn over the past 4 years of having my son, and I've gotten better when I had my daughter, but taking like a longer maternity leave, barely took a maternity leave first. I was like, got to get back to work. I have all these clients already signed. So just taking more time for myself and then not taking on as many clients. So we're a boutique firm on purpose. We get really deep with our clients. We don't just keep taking on people to like get a check. And so we're pretty in demand for what we do. Like I think right now we're booked through October of next year. Yeah, which is a good problem to have because we'll get people come. I'm like, oh, we're already booked like through the next year. But I just learned like I have to charge more and take on less. And so it's actually worked out really well. My clients love it because they're really individualized campaigns and it's better for me. But PR is a tough industry. It's not like being a therapist, like a true therapist where you're like, here's my office hours. And then after this, I'm done. I mean, this past Sunday, I had a client on Good Day New York and for Monday and Sunday day, the producers were like emailing me all day. So all day Sunday, I was working on his appearance. So that just sometimes happens. And I think that's the nature of being a business owner that you really like you start off like, I'm going to set my own hours because I'm going to own this business. And then you actually work way
Yeah.
more. And
Yes.
then, yeah, so it's been a learning curve, but I feel like I'm getting it down better. But the nature of PR is you're always kind of on. So that is the hard part about this industry.
How do you set boundaries with that when you're with your kids? I mean, I
Mm.
struggle with the same thing because in the short-term rental space, it seems like everybody's trying to check into the property where they are from 4 to 7, which is usually the time that I'm with my kids, bath and bedtime. And
Yeah.
we've come up with systems and processes like with our staff taking over that piece and like they don't need me, they can get a door code somewhere else. But how do you manage that?
Yeah, that is tough. So I try
And if
yeah,
you
I'm
don't have
like
an answer,
thinking
that's
of
fine
the
too.
the processes and like procedures that I've put in place for that. So, one, I think this job would be impossible without outside help and like an amazing
Yep.
partner. So, my husband will step in sometimes if I have something like an emergency is coming up and he needs to step in to like watch the kids or do something. Um, and we have just like good community here of friends and family and sitters and things like that that can help. They also have a nanny. And so I know how like
Yeah.
privileged that is to have because we don't have like our actual biological family. There's nobody here. So there's no grandparents, there's no aunts, there's no uncles.
It's
Yes. So
hard.
I think in order to do this work, you have to have like a consistent sitter. So whether that is like a grandparent or an aunt or whoever it is, for us it's the nanny. So we have that and that has helped. And then I try to take specific days off and I tell my whole team like, hey, Fridays, I'm taking my daughter to gymnastics in the morning and best of luck. Like I will check in at nap time, but I'm really going to try to not be on my phone. And then I've turned off alerts on, like we have Slack and even text messages. I will turn off alerts so I can't even see. Like unless my client is like on Today's Show that day, then of course I'll keep my phone on loud. But other than that, the alerts are off. So I'll have to go physically look at my text message app to see if someone has texted me. And I try to keep most things, we're now moving to the system, like we would just text each other all the time, every day. So now, at least for my team, we've really tried to move to Slack. So it's like everything in work is kept in Slack versus like in our personal texts are blowing up. Now with our clients, we do have text groups for each one. And so that sometimes can get a little tricky. So it's something that I'm still working on, but I think having just outside help so I can just have a dedicated time to get things done, and then trying to put the filters on my phone of like taking off alerts. So I'm not like frantically looking at something right when it comes in. If it's like, hey, how do I respond to this person? It's usually something like that.
We're the exact same way. We have a nanny now, but we had live-in au pairs
Oh,
from
I
the
love that.
time that my oldest was 8 months old, and then our last one left us in August, because my husband actually left his 9 to 5 and kind of serves as a we didn't need live-in
Yeah.
anymore because he wasn't traveling as much for his job. So I completely agree with, getting that help where you need it, and one, not feeling guilty
Yeah.
about it. Like it's so hard as a mom and an entrepreneur to be okay with both, at least for
Yeah.
me. So I just had to get over it and said, the goal is that they are loved and cared for and
Yeah.
me to be there as much as I can. But um yeah, I think it's a big challenge to be able to balance both of those.
Yeah. And I think like there is just mom guilt. I think that's just inherent to like owning a company and being a loving parent is like,
Yeah.
I've been out of the house the past 3 nights for just various reasons, and so I haven't put the kids to bed. And my son who's 4, is starting to get more like, "Oh, mommy, are you leaving? Are you gonna be back? Are you gonna be back?" And that is like, "Oh no, I feel terrible." But like this, me being on 3 nights is super unusual. So I have to like try to remind myself
Yeah.
like this never happens. So it just happened to fall into this one little block. So it is. I don't know if you ever like really get over mom guilt or just a little bit of lingering there at all times. And I've, gone through seasons. I think a lot of, especially entrepreneurs who were like, I'm just going to quit all of this. I'm going to stay at home, just raise my kids. And my husband will be like, I really don't think like it's honestly an outlet for you to go do your work for however long you're doing it and then come back and be fully refreshed for them. And I work from home, so I'm here. It's not like I'm really, unless I'm traveling, going anywhere. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I am a better mom when I am able to pour into my business, because I think the vibe that I'm getting from you as well is I love what I do, and I think you absolutely love what you
Yeah.
do, and having a passion like outside of being a mom is just something
Yeah.
that I don't think I could ever give up, because I just yeah, the struggle I think internally for me would be even worse.
Yeah.
So, shifting gears, that got
Yeah.
deep really quick. Who was the most who was the most interesting client you've worked with? I know you've said music stars, sports people.
Yes. Sometimes I have to pull up my website and like look through my clients because there are so many interesting just
Humble
so
brag there. I
yeah,
mean, just
like
I
okay,
got to
now
see.
it's been so long now, like 9 years. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did work with them. I did do that project." Sometimes when I'm writing proposals for like a certain industry, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've worked with these artists." So, gosh, I so many, but one I'm working with right now who I love and adore and is getting a ton of media is JT Harding. He is like a Billboard chart topping country songwriter. So he's written songs like that you've heard
Interesting.
for Blake Shelton, Kenny Chesney, Darius Rucker, Uncle Kracker. He wrote Smile for Uncle Kracker. So he is just writing number ones left and right. So it's fun to like see the behind the scenes of like these hit songs that he's written. And then he actually wrote a book about just his songwriting journey in life, which I got hired to work on, called Party Like a Rock Star, and just his journey. And it's very interesting because when, as an adult, he had been adopted, he found out his dad was actually a celebrity actor. And then they reunited, were able to like do a bunch of media together. Yes. And now
What?
he has a musical, it's off Broadway, but he helped write it. And so we just got reviewed. It's called Music City because he lives here, in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. One of my clients is my former client is a host for NPR, so she's going to go out to see it. But just getting these like amazing reviews. And I think to write a musical and then to write all these hit songs and a book. And he's just so fun. Like, he's so fun to do media with. He's just a very hilarious personality. So I really have enjoyed him. But I've had a lot of, we talked about Michael Vick, that he was actually a great guy, at least to me, to work with. So I really enjoyed doing his tour.
To hear it.
Yeah. And some of the bigger ones.
I went to
Oh,
Virginia
you
Tech,
did?
so I was familiar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after his time.
Yes.
After his time, I'm
Okay.
a little bit younger, but familiar with the name, and I'm happy to hear that he's a great guy. I'm sure it was just something that was
Well, I was
formative
like, oh
for
no,
you.
are you going to get comments on this podcast to be like, he's not a great guy, he went to prison for this? So in my experience with him, but I've worked with, gosh, very famous. I've noticed that the bigger the individuals are, actually, the easier for me it is to work with them. So like, the more A-list they are, they're just really great. And maybe it's because they have a team around them that is like handling every part of their life. And so they can really relax into that. For me, the like lower tier clients, they're maybe not as famous. They're like kind of famous, but not. That's where it gets a little challenging, because I feel like there's a little bit of a mindset of like, oh, this is how celebrities act. But I'm like, actually, they're very calm, like not like this. So it's interesting.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I was gonna say, why do you feel like they're
Yeah,
easier, but
I think it's
you
because
think
maybe they've
it's
done it for so long and they just have a team of people. Like, they have someone taking care of their money, they have someone doing their press, they have someone taking care of their house, whatever it is. And so they can just like do an interview, do their thing, and move on. So, I've worked
move
with
on?
on shows where there's a lot of celebrities. So I've done some shows for Fox where it was like a one time. Do you remember when all those musical shows were coming out, the live musicals? It would be like Peter Pan live or
Yes.
this live. So I did one of those. I did press for that. And it had Trisha Yearwood, Tyler Perry, Chris Daughtry, Seal, Michael W. Smith, and just a ton of celebrities just all come together for this live show. We did it in New Orleans. And so that to me was really fun because we did press every person. They had their own publicist too, but for the show, we were like doing a whole press tour with every single person. And then we did the show live because it was one night event live. And then we had a big after party on one of the boats in New Orleans. And it was just so fun. And I think everyone really, it was like an interesting time. Everyone was doing these live musicals, and that was really fun for me.
It sounds
Yeah.
like it. What an interesting, like, full, like, story arc of events that you've done throughout your
Yeah.
career.
It's been nice to just take on things and I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. Like, I just finished working with the Bluebell CEO. Super random. And also, I'm from Texas, so Bluebell to me is a big deal. I found out that in New
Yes.
York, they'd have no idea what Bluebell is because they don't have Bluebell in New York. So I was able to book him like all in the South. It was like he was doing a show like every other day. He was on TV. And then in New York, crickets, because they're like, well, we never heard of this before.
Who is
Yeah.
this guy?
So
Okay.
it's interesting. But that for me was really fun because, like, being a Texas girl, I love Bluebell.
You love
Hmm.
Bluebell. I love that. So I wanna go really kind of far back in your story when you were saying you kind of first dipped your toe in the water and you didn't realize there were all of these PR
Yeah.
softwares that you can look up people's names and other things. A lot of our listeners are, baby
Yeah.
entrepreneurs just getting started in the short-term rental space, looking for creative ways um, to get their property out there. A background on my clients and my brand, we, similar to you, are quality over quantity focused, like top tier properties, luxury high end properties that are competing on value, not on price. We never want our clients, slashing prices. We want them to have the best property in a
Mhm.
market and have some really cool, unique spaces that are beautifully designed, high end amenities that frankly deserve to be shown places with earned media, not paid. How would they go about just a couple of quick tips of saying, where could they find somebody to submit either their entrepreneurial story or the story of their property to maybe get in front of some new eyeballs, whether it's like digital or like physical media?
Yeah. I have a couple of thoughts about that. One, I think just regional focused media is a lot easier to get on than, like, I'm talking about these like national morning shows. But if you're in a certain region, let's say Atlanta, then it's going to be easier to try to pitch yourself to some regional outlets, whether that's like newspaper, magazine, or even like some digital. Like maybe there's a Style Blueprint Atlanta. I know we have that in Nashville. And so first, focusing on what makes everything unique, because these editors and hosts and journalists are getting pitched constantly. And so you need to stand out, and your property needs to stand out within the first like sentence or two sentences of something that you're going to email. So making sure you know what is super unique about your property. And then obviously I think having high quality photos is good. Never ever attach those to an email. No one in media is going to open an attachment. And so just putting that even into an email and saying like, here's the unique feature, here's a picture of that, I think would be helpful. Or like if anyone that would allow you to say this, but if there's anyone of note that has stayed there, or even if you could get influencers to come for free. I've seen a lot of influencers, and PR kind of delves into the influencer marketing realm a little bit. That's starting to take on its own life with paying influencers. Um, but if you can offer to have maybe some regional influencers come stay, I've seen that like a lot of posts from influencers I follow staying at certain properties in Florida. And then they'll talk about the property, they'll tag the property. So if you can even offer just like maybe a week or something to an influencer in your area or not in your area that could come out. And then you can talk about that with the media as well. Like we've had these notable people come stay here. I think all of that would help. As far as finding emails, that's where it can be a little bit trickier, but you could go through LinkedIn. Sometimes you can go through Google. Honestly, Google AI search now is pulling up a ton of email addresses that could work for you. So I think just kind of the old school methods of really trying to track somebody down. And then don't be discouraged if you email them and they don't answer, because that's a full-time job on, at least for a firm, is we're just constantly following up, because again, the newsrooms are so small. They're getting pitched every day, all day. They have hundreds of emails. And so just continuing to kind of stay on top of that and not be discouraged.
That's great tip. We speak a lot in our marketing program for short-term rentals about influencer marketing. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you said that, because one of the things that we like to show people is we're big on direct booking and building their own book of business and having a website that they can go to. But I love to track influencer marketing stays through unique coupon codes so that
Oh,
you can
yeah.
actually track the KPIs from influencers. But that's a great tip and a new perspective of saying, hey, we've had this person stay here, stay at this property. This is why it could be interesting. Do you have a subject line, or just like, this is something you absolutely should put in the first sentence of an email to somebody to get it read and get somebody to pay attention?
I always put interview opportunity to like start it so they kind of know what it's about.
Okay.
Um, and then for us, like with my clients, I'll say like Billboard chart topping songwriter. But let's say you had some kind of influencer's day at a property, you could say like influencer with 1 million followers on social stays at property with one of a kind pool. I never hesitate to make a subject line long, because I know that that might be the only thing they read. And so
That's a great
I
point.
know like sometimes PR softwares even say like shorten the subject line. I do not do that, because they're going very fast, and the more information I can get into that subject line, the more likely they'll be to open it. So I would say, like, whatever
Okay.
the unique feature is, I would say interview opportunity or feature opportunity, or like, let's say Atlanta, local Atlanta luxury, whatever it is, just making it relevant to why it's relevant to that market, could be good.
Okay, that's great tips. So don't be afraid to make the subject line long. Make sure that you're using a unique feature about the property in there. Never do an attachment because nobody's going to read
Yeah.
it. So if they were to include a photo, you're saying
Mhm.
put it in the body of the email.
Yes.
So if some, it could be eye catching. Never do an
Yeah.
attachment.
You could also
Great to
offer,
know.
because you have, like, you're covering influencers in your course, but you could also offer, if you know a local editor, like, I know we have Nashville Lifestyles here and Modern Luxury Nashville. If you offered one of their editors, hey, here's a space that you could use to come for your family, for one of the editors, or to host an event here if you wanted to. And maybe you could open the door that way by having them come out to the property, whether it's just to do like a lunch event or something, or for them and their family to stay. That could really help too.
Love that idea. Is there anything it's like in the industry, and somebody who may not be familiar with the industry may not know, but like big red flag, big faux pas, like never do this when reaching out to somebody other than
Yeah, the
including an
attachments is one
attachment.
of them. That is a big red flag. Gosh, I would say stay on top of following up, give them some space to do that. So don't email, then like 2 days later, email again, and then 2 days later, email again, because they need like at least a week or two in between you emailing them,
Good to know.
because they're going through so many things. And usually at about 3 follow-ups is where we stop, because that's sometimes they're ignoring you as a way of saying no without answering your email.
Just a
Yeah.
nice way.
So you
Yes.
don't want to
Okay.
email them so much that they're like, "Hey, please stop emailing me forever again." So,
Cease and
yes,
desist.
exactly. So that's
Stalker.
yes, yes. And sometimes I think we verge on stalkers as publicists, and sometimes it works out, but I think for the most part, about 3 check-ins, I'm like, "Okay, let's move on to somebody else."
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair. So, is there any, if let's say we're going old school route and going the LinkedIn or um, Google AI, and we're able to see somebody's title. Is
Mhm.
there a title that you've found to have the most success with, whether it's regional or like digital media? Is it director level? Is it associate? Like, what are we looking for?
So I'm usually looking for a producer. So at a show, it'd be a
Okay.
producer, a host. So hosts will sometimes
Okay.
influence who's going to be on the show, but producers are the ones that make the final decision. So for a regional show, you would look for the producers of that show. You could pitch the host, and maybe I would do that too, just so they're aware of like, oh, I've heard of this before. I've seen this in my email. But producers are usually the ones that make the ultimate decisions. So I look for producer and host. Same for podcasts. I will look for producers and hosts. Hosts of podcasts seem to be more involved in obviously scheduling who's going to be on. So you can do both there. And then for newspapers, magazines, we look for editors. And a lot of times, if
Okay.
it's a bigger outlet, it'll say like editor of real estate, or editor of publishing, or editor of local. Like, you're not going to want to pitch the breaking news journalist in your city for a real estate property. So maybe look for like the
No.
commerce or the real estate editor at that outlet. And if the outlet's smaller and it doesn't have that, maybe there's just one editor that covers everything, then go ahead and pitch them.
Okay. Great. Great tip. So, thank you so much for joining
Yes.
us. I'm going to ask one question that we ask
Okay.
everybody, and it is, what is a time in your life where change has brought an unexpected opportunity?
Ooh, that is a great ending question. Well, we've already talked about one. I'll bring up two. One, change, quitting my job. What am I going to do? Who
Yeah.
knows? And it opened this huge new world. 9 years later, here I am still doing press for some of my favorite people and meeting incredible people and having amazing opportunities that if I had stayed at my more 9 to 5, I would never have had. And then I was always the city girl, like got married later, living my life. And now I am a mom that lives in a suburb with 2 children. And that has just opened this world. Like I'm about to start repping a very notable motherhood organization. And so it's like, I wouldn't even have understood motherhood before having my children. So in the way that it changed some things for the better, I still am exactly who I am, but now I have this whole other facet of understanding, being able to relate to other working moms and working entrepreneurs and just understanding, especially the young parenting journey, what that's like. So having kids has changed my life in the best way possible. So I think that would be that.
I love that. Morgan, thank you so much for spending your morning with us and for sharing so many great tips. Tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me through my website. It's 2twopr.com, 2pr.com. I'm on LinkedIn at Morgan Canclini. Our agency is on Instagram at 2pr.agency. We're on LinkedIn as well. I usually go everything through my company route. If you're interested in publicity, it's all going through there. If you friend me personally, all you're going to see is my children. So the agency route is probably what you want to see. So yeah, I would say go through the website. All the links to our socials are there too. And you can also email info@2pr.com if you are in the entertainment world and you need some help, or even in the real estate world and you want advice on something, I'd be happy to help.
Perfect. Well, guys, go give Morgan and 2PR a follow, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.